All right, now joining us on the Inside In Tennis podcast, Brett Connors, starting the year off strong. He's the co-host of Advantage Connors. He works at Tennis Channel. He's been in and around the game literally his entire life. No better way to start 2026, Brett, than having you on the show and, having you on to talk old tennis. Thanks for coming on.
Thanks for having me, Money. Happy to be here, kicking off 2026. That still sounds a little crazy to me, but another tennis year is here upon us.
Yeah, happy New Year to yourself, to everyone out there listening or watching. It's over in a blink of an eye as a year, as is even quicker the off season, right? Because it's like 3-4 weeks, if that. There's tennis nonstop. I was having this conversation too. I mean, my dad brought this up where he's just like, the season's so long, but when we get to Australia time, we just want more tennis. So as fans, we're kind of thirsty for it. Like we know they need a break. We know that a break's needed for us, but once it gets to January, it's time for Australia, and we just perk right back up again.
Yeah, I mean, I think we get spoiled as a sport, being an 11-month sport, that we get used to there always being another tournament next week, another chance to watch another, great match, great tournament with the players. So when you take 6 weeks off or whatever it is from, the end of Davis Cup into January, yeah, you start to kind of itch a little bit and start to, miss looking at the lines and seeing what's coming up on the schedule tomorrow. So.
Yeah, some movement. We'll leave it at that. There's some movement going on. It's the beginning of the year. We'll see. But, changes are all across the board. I kind of think what's been happening in recent memory, we've seen some players take some control of their own career on and off the court. We've seen some changes. I think, Brett, we can start with Alcaraz because it's rare when the world number one makes an enormous move, I would say. But ending the partnership with Juan Carlos Ferrero and how it went down, where it was, by all accounts, Alcaraz's decision. Ferrero said he wanted to keep going, wasn't in the cards for him. That stunned me a little bit in a sport that doesn't necessarily, it kind of beats that out of you. I was shocked, I'm sure you were as well, at least a little bit, that Alcaraz made such a bold move when he's at the top of the game right now.
Definitely, it was surprising. I mean, when I was first texting you and some other people, I thought maybe it was Ferrero's decision. Like maybe he had enough time on the road, he missed being with his family, and maybe would start an academy at home, something like that. But when I found out it was on Carlos's side, made it even more surprising. I wonder how much of it has to do with the family's influence. Like, is he listening to dad and his brother and his mom and who else? Other people. He's got so many people in his ear, and it's crazy to break up because they're the best, kind of team in the game. They've been winning slams and tournaments now for a long time. He's known them since he was a junior, pretty much. And not often do you see that where a coach brings someone in from such a young age and takes them all the way to the top. He's number one in the world. So to make a change like that kind of seems crazy. But, you hope that Carlos knows what he's doing and feels like, I guess, he's learned everything he can. And he knows what he's doing. He's one in the world, so he's maybe he's going to take the reins now and be the leader of his own destiny.
Well, whatever happens going forward, and we know that it's a process, right? The moves. I do think that it highlights a couple things. One being, stunning that someone who's won 6 slams with you, and then whoever coaches Alcaraz going forward is going to have a tough act to follow. The guy that won 6 slams and brought him up. I hope. And we don't know what was said in the negotiation. It came down to a couple things that were just not agreed upon. And that's why I think as more details come out, we can kind of see if it's as simple as, it doesn't sound like it was money. I would have been shocked if it came down to money, given we're not just Alcaraz stands making money, but Ferrero having a successful playing career as well. But if it comes down to availability and time, those are fair requests for Alcaraz if he wants someone to be with him more often, if the team wants more. I'm with you though, Brett. I think I hope that this was an Alcaraz decision and not necessarily outside forces. I'll say that.
Yeah, definitely agree. I mean, I don't think it's money either, just because with the way tennis is, Ferrero can have so many incentives in his contracts with sponsors and and other ways to make money outside of the actual coaching itself. But yeah, I mean, I hope it's Carlos, which I don't think it is. I mean, I feel like it must be something with the voices because Carlos looks up to him so much when you see him interacting together. He seems like almost like he's a second dad to Carlos. So yeah, it's really surprising. It'll be fun to watch how he does, not going into these events as we go into the first major of the year in Australia. It's not his favorite slam. It's the only one he hasn't won. So, maybe not the best time to be making this change, or maybe the best time to just have a clean break and start new for 26.
Yeah, he had that rough loss in Paris early round, and you wondered if there was things he could have adjusted. He looked frustrated on the court, which was new for him. But yeah, winning 2 slams, finishing number 1 with Samu Lopez as the coach right now, Brett. I do think that it won't be the last coach Alcaraz has, but I would guess, my guess, and I'm wondering your thoughts, is that he's going to take a patient approach. The team that he has right now will probably take a patient approach to see what voices add, because, I mean, this is the golden goose, right? There's coaches that are tripping over themselves to get a chance to coach this guy.
Definitely, guys, everyone's going to want to coach him, but also he's already at the top. You know what I mean? He's number 1 in the world. He's 6-time major winner. So also, like, if he slips up a little bit, people are going to start to look at whoever slides in there as the coach. So I think you're right. He will have to take a patient approach, because if he takes an early loss or he goes out, before we think he should in Australia, all of a sudden the voices are going to be there right away, questioning his decision. So I think, it's smart of him to take his time and to feel it out and see, what works well with the new coaching guys and what doesn't and what fits him, and, just take it from there.
Do you think the Australia side of things, Brett, in terms of him not winning one, is it as simple or as straight line as it seems on the outside for a lot of people, where it's the exhibition schedule, how much he's playing going into December, not maybe having a proper offseason? And I'm asking you as a tennis fan, but also the son of a proud person that was taking advantage of the lucrative exhibition seasons for sure. But it's a complicated question, I'm sure, but he is playing a lot of tennis, making a lot of money, but playing a lot of tennis in the late December.
Yeah, he does. I mean, he enjoys, the silly season, as I think some people have called it. But I mean, that's where the money is to be made. That's you can't get mad at him for wanting to do that. If we were in the same position, we would be, cashing in as well. I don't think that wears him out. Like playing in exhibitions, that are little hit and giggles most of the time in December isn't going to wear him out for like the end of January. So I think maybe it's more one of those things where he enjoys his off the court life. He likes to go to Ibiza. He likes to have fun and do things and be a young guy, which everyone wants to do. And you never know. Maybe sometimes it's just hard to get going in the beginning of the year. Other people, it took him a little while till the clay court season last year. So, he might just be one of those guys who doesn't start quick and takes him a little longer to get going.
Yeah, I think that last part's probably true, given the fact that we've seen all of his seasons ramp up. And yeah, there could be underlying factors why it doesn't work out in Australia, and it probably will at some point. The other part of the Alcaraz move, Brett, I wanted to tie in with Sinner, because they've been clearly the 2 alpha dogs in the sport for the last couple of years. But it does show you that, much like the big 3 in other eras as well, eras that go back in the history of the game, players at the top know that they have real threats out there. And I think it kind of shows you, look at their serve, for example, that they're trying to find edges. They're not satisfied. They know that the other player's on them, and they have to keep getting better. So I wonder if the Alcaraz coaching move, as I'm sure the service changes for both players, are designed to just combat one particular threat who they know isn't going to go away.
Right. I mean, you feel like they know that their game is in a position where it beats most of the other guys consistently. So there's only one guy that they're each really trying to beat, and it's each other. So, they're definitely tinkering and messing with their game, to exploit the weakness the other guy has or to button up their weakness. And like you said, I saw some of the breakdown of Carlos's new serve, where he's like, he's kind of standing a little different. He kind of has his arm looking like Djokovic. You can kind of notice that it looks a little bit like Djokovic. So, yeah, I mean, it's one of those things where, like, if you're not trying, you're going to get passed up. If you're not always trying to get better, everyone else is trying to get better around you. So even the guys at the very tip top still have to do that. And then the off season, this as short as it is the time to do it. So you can like mess around, and you're not, mid tournament or mid major where it can bite you in the butt.
Do you think, in terms of Sinner, because what he did with his serve at the end of last year was crazy. I was watching the ATP finals and looking at the breakdowns on Tennis Channel of just the consistency, especially how poor it was in that US Open final. But as far as consistency, and he's been the guy in that category for the last couple of years, do you see a dip coming in that regard, like one step back to take 2 steps forward? Because he's been pretty open about these changes. I wonder if, and that's what I'm asking, is he going to sacrifice maybe some result at these smaller events, and smaller in the sense of 1,000s, of course, to maybe give himself more upside against Alcaraz in these finals?
I mean, I don't think what he's doing is going to hurt him against other players. You know what I mean? I think whatever they're tinkering with, if it works against Alcaraz or Sinner, vice versa, it's going to work against everybody. For the most part. So I don't think he's sacrificing anything. I just think they're just trying to get better. They're still so young, and if he takes a loss and it's because of that. I mean, the serve to me is always like the drive in golf. I'm a golfer. So like, it's one of those things where it can just be off. Like on any given day, if your serve's a little off and you're just down 5 or 10%, the other guy can take advantage of that. And so it's one of those things where you have to constantly keep working on it, constantly keep practicing it, because, you always want it to be there in the biggest moments.
Yeah, one thing I think we learned last year, and we'll see if it holds up. When Sinner's serve was off, I noticed a little bit more of a disparity. Like Alcaraz's serve is off, he can do a little bit more. I think that's more along the lines of the upside of everyone said Alcaraz has the higher ceiling. I think that's still true. But if Sinner raises that floor, raises that serve, and just, gets more first serves in, it seems simple, but we know how hard it is. It didn't happen in the U.S. Open final. These are two, and again, Brett, they're at the rarefied air. It is as noticeable of a gap between the top two and the rest that we've had in quite some time. And I wonder how much longer this is going to go on for, honestly.
Yeah, I mean, just finishing up the serve. And the other thing is the return, because as important as the serve is, the return becomes so vital too, because you're just trying to find any little hole in the other guy's service games. And it seems to be in these guys' matchups, especially I was at Wimbledon, I was at the U.S. Open live, luckily, to watch it. And it just seemed like whoever served better that day kind of won that match, but also who returned better. Like Sinner returned so well in Wimbledon, and then Sinner serve dips a little bit at the U.S. Open and Carlos takes advantage of it. But yeah, I mean, I just think it's going to be a while because, like, even if somebody bubbles up and starts to like be a contender, they're not going to be on the consistency level of these two for a couple years.
Yeah,
like,
you're not going to be able to beat both of them. That's the thing, right? Like, it's the whole you'd have to go through both. Like, I mean,
right.
Come on.
And even guys like Fonseca, guys like that you talk about, or even like Felix had such a good close. Like it. Sure, they might have a chance to knock one of them off if they keep on this upward path, but to beat them both and then to stay there and beat everyone else also. That's a big ask. So I think it's going to be a little while that these guys are kind of, holding it down at the top.
How much it takes out of you physically, unless and it won't, but unless the buzz of, I'm hearing a lot more people, Brett, talk about the woes of best of five, even people that played. So it's steam's brewing up. So I don't know.
I know. I'm not a fan of that. I mean, I love the best of fives. It's only 4 tournaments a year. So I think for the sake of the history of the game and the fact that we get those grinded out matches, that I think the 5-setter should stay.
Well, a couple of things before I open it up to the field here. Alcaraz never been coached by anyone outside of Spanish, coaches, so that's something to consider going forward. And I think, and I'm sure you probably do as well, Ferrero will be coaching again at some point. He's got the track record. I think he's done pretty well here. And I think he'll be back on his feet as well, too. So where they both go, I mean, this is a seismic shift in the landscape we weren't expecting.
Yeah. I mean, wasn't Ferrero supposed to work? Who was it with? Zverev?
Yeah, that was a failure to launch for a couple of reasons.
Well, maybe they'll circle back around. You never know. So, I mean, he'll have plenty of people who he'll be able to pick and choose like his next position. If he maybe wants to take some time off, hang with fam, or just jump right back into something else. But also be interesting to see how he does. Just to see does his coaching transfer to another player, another type player. If he's not there to be there with them, from such a young age, and then to jump in when they're already, top 30 in the world or whatever it is, maybe a little different.
I wonder the third player, if it will happen this year and who it will be. We've been throwing out names for a while, and it still seems like, and there's been a lot of great tennis. It seems like we're very similar to where we were. Maybe there's a couple young guys that are ready to explode. Fonseca's at the top of that list. You had Menchik win Miami. Brutal news, obviously, Jack Draper and Arthur Fils won't be playing in Australia. You'd add Ben Shelton to the mix of players that can contend, Brett. But, and Djokovic, of course, too. But it still feels like we're waiting for, a domino to drop, someone to really make their move, like step one of a couple-step process. And I fear that we're still a couple steps behind in that process.
Yeah, I agree. It's like, as much as we all want Fonseca to be that guy because he's so flashy and fun and, South American, hasn't been a great South American in a little while. So, I still think it's going to be a little while because Fonseca's it's like tennis is like all these baby steps. You win your first 500, then you win your first 1,000, or you make your first final of 1,000. A Grand Slam, it's like all those little steps. And not very often does someone skip steps, Carlos kind of did a little bit, but not really. Yeah. Like he was winning. Because even if Fonseca wins a title in, he has 3 years till Federer's age or so, 2.5 years. Mm-hmm. So, Djokovic was 20. Like there's still, and again, timelines don't change. And I would actually argue that where we are right now is a testament to the depth of the men's game.
that it is a lot harder to break through, which makes what Alcaraz did so special. Sinner had to waste some time. So I put Fonseca and maybe Manchik is his consistency lacked as well. They're in a different category where they're still in development, as crazy good as they are. But you look to the players a couple years older that have been around, that have had Masters titles. Shelton and Draper come to mind. What they have to do to get to this level, step one is just stay healthy. And as easy as that sounds for a guy like Draper, it just hasn't happened. And I'm worried that he won't be able to hold up. I hope I'm wrong, and I hope my fears subside, but you got to be out there to give yourself a chance to beat these guys. And unfortunately, it just hasn't happened.
Yeah. I mean, it seems like it's a lot of guys that we all want to be this next guy. Like we're all jumping on the names Draper, Fonseca, Lerner, Tien, like all these guys that we want to be the next guy. And then, but we can't make him get there any faster. He's got to take his time to get there. With Draper, it's a bummer because he wins Indian Wells, and then we made the finals of Madrid. So, you're like, wow, you can do it on clay too. But then he breaks down a little bit. I went and watched him practice in New York at the Open, and I didn't realize like he's a big dude. Like he's a strong guy. He's cut, and he carries a lot of like muscle. So it's just one of those things where tennis is so athletic. You're moving around so fast, so much that sometimes muscle. Is it a bad thing? Like sometimes it can be. But remember Nadal when he was so muscly when he was young, and then he like slimmed down a little bit as he got older. Because it's hard to carry all that extra weight, the pounding your body takes. So, we'll see. I wonder if it'd be interesting to see when he comes back. Has he tried to like slim down at all?
My thing too with that, again, just an observation is I think you can be on the bigger side. You can add muscle, but you don't want to add it too quickly because your body and your joints aren't ready to carry that weight, especially in a sport as brutally physical as tennis. So I think there's still something there. And for Shelton, yeah, it's his first top 5 year, which is great. But he got to a point where he lost to in the first three, he got injured in the U.S. Open, but the first three slams was the top guy. So can he fire off a warning shot? Can somebody beat these guys in like a Masters final or stun them in a slam? I mean, that's the thing we're going to look for. But if it's another year of all four, it's crazy if they just sweep them up again.
I mean, I could see it happening, dude. Like, it's just like, like you said, you want to see them do it, improve it. And like, have Shelton, because Shelton, when he won Toronto, he still didn't beat either of those guys. And the Djokovic wasn't there. It was a great run, but you still want to see Shelton beat Sinner in a final, beat Alcaraz in a final or whatever, beat Sinner in the semi to beat whoever in a final, like you want to start, that'll be his next step. It seems like now that he's top 5.
Well, more with Brett Connors here on the Inside in Tennis podcast, kicking off 2026 in style. A lot of storylines to discuss, action as well. And before we get to the WTA, we've got the United Cup, an interesting one, a team competition, right? We're getting top men's and women's players playing together. I know, Brett, it's not everybody that can or wants to play, and it's not every country that's evenly dispersed. But when you get the chance to see top players playing alongside each other, it is kind of cool. I know the merger word keeps getting thrown around, but it's cool to see elite men's and women's players on the same side competing with and against each other. It's nice, something different, I would say, in a sport that kind of gets mundane a lot. It's nice to have a different type of event. Yeah,
I think it's a good event to kind of start the year off with too. You know what I mean? Like you're not diving right into like a big important event. It's kind of fun. You're playing for your country. You get to play the mixed doubles, which is fun after having the different U.S. Open format. It seemed like a lot of people kind of like that. So I think it's a fun way to start the year and good way to get some practice before we get into the real meat and potatoes of the tournament season.
Yeah, one I was watching China beat, I think, the Netherlands. That was pretty epic last night. Unfortunately for the Americans, Taylor Fritz loses to Sebastian Baez, but word comes out that he's, saying he's dealing with some tendonitis. And, that's not a break you want to hear at this time of the year with all the tennis in store coming up. And you look at the resume and what he's done, Brett, to get to the point where he's been top 5 and in a major final. You wonder, you hate to have those worries, but you wonder if there's more that he's letting on and if it's going to have to be a situation where he takes a step back. I don't know if you saw him out there, but he definitely didn't look 100%, didn't look like he was feeling quite like himself.
Yeah, I saw the highlights. It's, Baez is a great player, but figure not as much. Maybe on hard court, Fritz should probably take that match if he was healthy. Yeah, I mean, tendonitis is one of those tricky injuries too, where it's like you can't force it to get better. You have to kind of take the time, take your medicine and maybe take a little time off. So, good on him to go and try and kick off the year and try and play and, hopefully it's not too serious and he's able to, play in Australia in a couple weeks.
Yeah, should be interesting to see how he monitors that and goes forward. But I'm with you. I think it's a good way to start the year. Get your serious match reps in before Australia. And speaking of that, I know it's one of your favorites, mine as well. But Stan Wawrinka beats Arthur Rinderknecht, and he does it in 3 hours. He's announced that this is going to be his last season, age 40, going to be 41 later this year. Does it in 3 long sets. Wins the tiebreak late, just brutal conditions, and also does something that I looked up. Your dad has the record, 25 years winning a tour match, stands up to 23. So
Okay.
that longevity is pretty insane. And everybody else, it's like, the big four stands in there, your dad's at the top. But for Stan to still be out here, to still be chasing just improvement and fulfillment playing tennis, knowing that he's not going to reach that peak ever again, there is still something inspiring with that, and inspiring in a guy that just loves to play and compete.
Yeah, that's the part I like about it. I'm a huge Stan fan over the years. Always loved watching him play and rooted for him. But yeah, it's like he doesn't need this to. Most of the time he's playing challengers. He didn't even get the wild card to the Open last year, which seemed like a shame. But yeah, I mean he's grinding on the Challenger Tour, so he's not doing it for the money. He's doing it strictly because he loves the sport so much. And he probably just enjoys the grind and almost doesn't know what else to do. It's one of those things where if you've been playing tennis for 23 years, your calendar is set by where you are that week in the world.
Yeah.
Like playing whatever event. So the fact that he was able to come through and win that match like that was very gratifying, because usually he still plays great tennis. The problem is he can't usually maintain it for 2 or 3 sets. He'll play a great set and then maybe get a little tired in the second. He loses in a tiebreak and then he's maybe done in the third. So to see him come out of a 3-hour grind fest with Rinderknecht, who's been playing good tennis, at the end of last year, was really fun to see.
Yeah, one for the old guard, and another thing too. I think we both agree, those 3 slams are going to age very nicely as the years and decades go by. The history books will be like, wow, you won 3 slams in that era against those guys, like in major finals. So yeah.
Beat number 1 seeded player in all 3 and beat Djokovic in all 3. Different rounds maybe, but still you can't take anything away from those slams, man. The guy's a legend.
Yeah, it just shows you too, there's so much more to tennis than just who wins the actual tournament, right? There's so much that you can take from it as well. So I'm excited to see how it starts off there. And then just, note on the women's side of things, Brett, I came off of 2025 feeling probably the most positive about the depth of the top 10 in the WTA in a long time. Definitely probably in my professional life, but I like the storylines going into this year. We'll see how it goes with the United Cup, but a player that you guys have covered on Advantage Connors that you've loved, Aryna Sabalenka, she finishes year-end number 1. She wins a major, and yet it did feel like an unfulfilling year. What an insane standard you set to do all that she did and say, oh, I left a few on the table, but that's the type of player she is, and we'll see how she responds in the big matches in 26.
Yeah, I mean, we're definitely big Savvy fans. Great personality, fun to watch out there. Yeah, but I think she would agree. I mean, I think she won 4 titles, one of them a major U.S. Open. But I think she would agree she probably gave away opportunity to win all 4 slams. She was in the finals with 2 others, up a set in those, I think. And then, semis, she loses to that great match against Anisimova at Wembley. But, I mean, I think she'll be all right. I mean, her style of tennis is going to keep on winning her matches, as long as she stays healthy out there and just keeps doing what she does best. But I think that she'll use last year as motivation. I think the U.S. Open kind of salvaged her year. Like if she hadn't won that, it would have been a bummer of a year, I think, for her.
Right.
So the fact that she was able to get that, and in the year on a kind of a high note, she didn't play that much tennis, to be honest, the second half of the year.
Yeah.
So I think, reset off season, plays the Kyrgios match, has some fun there. And then now she's ready to go back down under where she's always had a lot of success.
Yeah, having fun is kind of what she not necessarily likes to do, but needs to do a lot of the time. Like, and that's been a change for her. Like there was the emotional struggle she had before she broke through. I think not all players are like this. Some are completely opposite, actually, but she needs to be enjoying herself out there. It's my takeaway of watching her play is that when she's having fun and treating some moments with, lightness and humor, she plays her best. The other thing too, Brett, is that she is getting everybody's best shot now. They know she's the top player, so she has to go through a gauntlet. And it's a testament to how good you are. Another thing where you're going to be getting the best effort from everyone because the target is on your back.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, every time she goes out there, she's playing against someone that has nothing to lose. that's tough to have to like deal with every time you walk on the court, because they're getting essentially a free swing at you. So if you're a little off or you're not on your game, 100%, then they're gonna make a career win, off of you that day. So man, I think she'll be all right. I think you're right though. The matches where she's lost, like the Gauff final or even the Keys final, she puts a lot of pressure on herself. You can see her out there where she's like being hard on herself, even early in situations where you're like, you're still up a set or you're only down a break or like whatever it is, relax, make sure you remember to have fun out there. And when she has fun, she just swings freely and she just rips.
Yeah. There's so many good storylines at the end of the year too, as well. I mean, Anisimovan's rise up. It really, from Wimbledon on, where Iga wins, gets that elusive title that no one thought would happen. Anisimovan's comeback, beats Iga, U.S. Open final, finishes the year amazingly strong. And then what Rybakina did to just close out the year, playing flawlessly, added a lot of depth to the women's game that I think had been sorely lacking, Brett. So I wanted to ask you these two questions, and I know they're like open-ended, but how many different slam winners do you think we'll have in 2026 on the WTA? And will there be any first-time slam winners?
That's tough. Because the Iga started to play good. Like Iga started to figure it out. That's the second half of the year. So it's hard to so you have Sabby and her. You got to figure they each win a slam.
Okay,
maybe.
That only leaves two left.
So there's two left. I figure Anisimova has a good chance of winning one of those, so I'll throw her in there. So we'll have a first-time winner. She'll win either the Open or Wimbledon next year. How about that?
Okay. So then are we going four? Are we going 4 for 4 different ones again? Or are we going to do?
I think someone will get two.
Okay, Sabby or Iga probably.
Will get two.
Okay.
That's what I think.
Yeah, I would say if it's 4, I would add Rybakina to the mix, but then you wonder which ones. She can win on all surfaces. I think clay would probably be the least likely, but
you're right.
Yeah,
she turned it around too. She started to get it back, with her coach, on the sideline, started to play a lot better. So
yeah, AO final when Sabalenka won her first, and I think was up a set maybe. I'm trying to remember. I think she might have been. It definitely went 3, but I don't know. I mean, we haven't even said Coco, whose year is going to be very, very scrutinized given what she's trying to do, and that's revamp a serve from the ground up, like not just tweak it, like we're talking revamp it from the ground up. On the fly. You were at that U.S. Open, and the reports there was they had never seen a player in the tournament practice so much beforehand, like getting tired practicing. So we'll see if she can fix it and get back to slam finals.
Yeah, I mean, the whole U.S. Open, the whole week of qualies, she was out there on the court working with her, her new coach, and I mean, it was kind of crazy going into a major. You're like, don't touch anything. We got this big tournament coming up. But I kind of I appreciate her for doing that. You know what I mean? Like the fact she's willing to do that. Most other players wouldn't do it. Whether or not it's the best thing for her, that's her decision. It's for her to figure out. But the thing with Coco that's crazy is she has these matches where she'll make whatever 60 errors or make 20 double faults and still be in the match, or sometimes even win the match. So like out of every player out on the WTA tour, Coco, at whatever she is, 2, 3, 4 in the world right now, has a ton of room to get better, like a lot better. You know what I mean? Like if she cleans her serve up and cleans those airs up, goes from 60 to 25, or you know what I mean, from 20 double faults to 6 or something like that. That's a lot of free points that you're picking up, and there's no other player on tour that has 20 or 30 extra points per match they could be winning. That's crazy. Yeah,
her fight level, her compete level is at the very top of the sport. I don't think there's much of a debate there, but I do agree with you. And I agree with a lot of the other experts that say the forehand's connected to the serve. The serve it's not chicken versus egg. I think serve causes a lot of these problems. Forehand could use work, but you see when she's serving poorly how it affects other aspects of her game. Mm-hmm. I'm never going to write her out, but I will say that the competition is rising. So it might be a little tougher to overcome these. Like when you're off in a tournament now on the WTA, it's like good luck because one after the other, again, showing what Madison Keys did in Australia was crazy. The run she had to go on just to even get to the final. It's tough. Some of the draws can be brutal in this sport, especially where we are.
And I think a little bit with Coco is her grip. She's like really far around on there with that super Western grip, which on the forehand, it's tough if you don't have enough time. So like if she has time with her great movement to get in position, then she can rip the forehand. But sometimes if the ball comes back, she hits not a great serve. The ball comes back to her quick. She doesn't have time to get in position. So I think you're right. The grip on the forehand and the serve are a little bit connected. So,
Well, any other players, and we can open it back up to the ATP, but any other players you're looking at that maybe under the radar, maybe players that you like, let's say that they're lucrative in one sense of the word, depending on how they're doing. Anybody else
yeah,
you think could be primed for some success under the radar?
yeah. I mean, it's tough, like, right? Because everyone, you don't know how they're going to start the year. Everyone like resets a little bit, but interested to see how Medvedev comes back. You know what I mean? Like he's kind of been like, well, we don't know. Is he done? Like, is he like falling off, or is he going to be able to like kind of come back? He got rid of his longtime coach. He got a new coach in there, so that's one I'm looking at. Felix, kind of want to see like, did he peak? Was that like, remember 2 or 3 years ago he won like 3 tournaments in the fall,
Yeah.
like 3 in a row, and then like we were like, oh man, he's going to use this to springboard into the next year, and he kind of came back down to earth. So kind of seeing like, is he going to be able to learn from that and maybe stay in the top 5-10 area of the rankings? So those are two names I'm looking at on the men.
He really dipped last year, like as low as I'd gotten, and then went on a tear and, gave Sinner a heck of a match in the US Open semis where he redlined as best that he could. Yeah, could be. I mean, a lot of Canadian love for Mboko. There's a lot
Yeah.
of talk about, and I get why. It might be like Fonseca, it might be like Menchik, where it's a little too early to really be a top contender. But you see the gifts, similar to those two outstanding players. Like you see gifts with her that you understand why the potential's there, and what she did in Canada last year, handling the weight of that moment, says a lot about the character too.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. I mean, she's still so young. You can tell that she's got the game and tons of potential. So I think maybe, for the near future with her, it might just be like she doesn't have a couple great results, but then all of a sudden she pops up and wins an event or makes a final, or makes a deep run in a big event. So, she's just learning. This is like probably her second full time around the calendar, especially as someone that she's not going to sneak up on anyone now. Everyone knows who her name and is going to see her coming.
Well, Brett, this has been fun. Any other final thoughts before we wind this one down as we gear up for another great year of tennis?
No, man, not much. I'll be in there starting tomorrow, producing a United Cup for Tennis Channel. So tune in, baby.
Well, yeah, and I can't wait for that. But I did before I go. I know I mentioned the podcast, but been a big fan of that with your dad, Advantage Connors. You've been doing it for what, like 6 years now? Is COVID, and then right away, right into that.
This is our seventh year. Can't believe it, man.
7. Wow. Well, whose idea was it? Because the Garage Tales has been great. Is that something you had your hand in? Because it's been great watching your dad go through stuff, and it looks like he's discovering it for the first time in decades too.
Yeah. Yeah, well, he had a storage unit back in Belleville, Illinois, which is where he's from, and it's just been sitting there for like 15 years, 20 years, right? So we're like, well, we need to get that out of there. We need to, figure out what's in it, clean it out, get rid of it, throw it away the trash. So we finally had it sent out here. It's been sitting in the garage for like 3 or 4 months, and my mom's just like, what is this? Are you ever gonna go through this stuff? And so I was like, why don't we go through it and see if there's like cool stuff, and then do a little video record and put it out on social media and promote the podcast. And so it's been a lot of fun and money. We've done over 200 podcasts, and when I tell you the 3 videos we've done have gotten us 4 times more Instagram followers than the 200 podcasts did. I don't think we're ever going to do a full length podcast again. We're just going to do these little 90-second clips.
No, I get it. People like to see memorabilia. It's pretty funny. And especially because there's the tennis side of things, and you guys have such a special bond in the show and is great, but a lot of what people love is just the cool stories. It's not about winning a quarterfinal or a semifinal match and road to a major. It's about the funny stuff and cool experiences you made along the way. And as you're seeing now, the stuff that your father collected.
Yeah. I mean, definitely. It's fun because it can be just a little whatever trophy or picture, but you can turn it into a little story, like something fun that nobody knows about. And I think the other funny part is everyone thinks he's like, oh, I bet your dad has a room with all of his trophies in it. It's like, no, they're in boxes in the garage. I don't even know where they are, to be honest. He's got a couple of them in his office, I think Wimbledon and the US Open. But for the most part, everything is in those boxes you see on the video.
Well, one of my goals for 26 is to try to track down footage from the Kenny Rogers thing with all the athletes and entertainers. I want basketball. I want everything out there with those legendary casts of collection there.
That was a great concept. I feel like somebody could bring that back now, and that'd be great, like television, if you did that. They would get a golfer, or like four or five golfers, 4 or 5 tennis players, 4 or 5 like fishermen, basketball players, and celebrities. So then they would have like a team of 5, and then they would like play every sport. And so like, it was a pretty cool event. You got like Michael Jordan, Dominique Wilkins, you know, you got all kinds of great athletes were participating.
The celebrity side's cool. Like, how would that, like, you have to like act in a scene or something, or?
Yeah, I don't know.
You know,
I guess they just played like Alan Thicke, I think, was on my pop's team. You remember him from Growing Pains?
Yeah.
So he's a good
RIP.
dude. He's a good dude. So, yeah, man, it was a fun idea. I feel like you need the right celebrity, though. I don't know who it could be, you know, like Post Malone or some other kind of country guy, now that he's a country guy.
That's an entirely different lane. I think we'll have to go to the experts for that one. But
okay.
Brett Connors, man, always the best having you on. Appreciate you coming on the show. A blast talking to you. Thanks for coming on the Inside in Tennis podcast.
Thanks a lot, Money. Glad to be here kicking off another year of tennis with you, man. Let's have some fun.
Absolutely. Can't wait. The show is available on all your podcast platforms as well. So go to Apple, Spotify, iHeart, Amazon Music as well. More tennis content all the way through the year with Brett Connors. I'm your host, Mitch Michals. Thanks for listening and watching. We'll talk to you soon.